Protest is giving a damn. Whether it's individually or collectively, you find a way to raise your voice and to be heard.
And here is safe, unafraid, taken care of, with a decent standard of living, regardless of where they come from and regardless of the colour of their skin.
My name is Stuart Bailie. I am a journalist and a broadcaster. I've written a series of books, including one called Trouble Songs, Music and Conflict in Northern Ireland. A lot of the world at the minute, the Western world, relies on most of the citizens just letting things pass over them, not reacting, feeling a little bit hopeless, feeling that they've got nothing to add to the world. And then protesters are the people who say, actually, I don't agree with how certain things are working. I'm going to raise my voice. I'm going to put my feet on the street. I'm going to write to people. I'm going to make a noise. I'm going to try and create a climate whereby some of the things I'm unhappy about can be changed. So protesters are people who decide to be active and as opposed to being passive.
Would you tell me why you protest?
We simply can't sit and do nothing about it. We have to do something to see if we can do anything to help them.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here. That's why every single one of these people is here. The better we know our rights and what we can and can't do and how we can protest and still remain safe ourselves, the better.
Have you ever actually been to a protest before? For Friday?
I have not.
I haven't been to one. I did a climate protest about 6 years ago where we skipped school and went into Victoria Square to protest climate change. But it really didn't do much and there were maybe 12 people there. So this is a much grander scale. It's a little bit daunting compared to my, how old was I, 14? I must have been 14 when I did it last. So we'll see what will happen. Do you do anything to make sure you stay safe?
My advice would be stick with people, stick with the collective. Like there's very good leaders here who, Belfast IPSC, they do a lot of great work building the movement, you know, doing lots of work with different groups in the city, including the police and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, you know, I have no worries. I don't think you need to pull back or anything like that, you know.
I think it's generally very peaceful and community driven as well, so that helps.
Okay, thank you very much.
Protest is not a threat to democracy. Protest is democracy in action!
I've worked all my community life for 30 years. I worked in peace building and good relations. So I worked with women and young women who actually were traumatised many years ago of being burnt out of their homes and the effect that had on, in particular, women and children. So when I seen what was happening in all areas of people being burnt out, which was supposed to be about violence against women and children, it actually is re-traumatising those families, but it's also re-traumatising the families here that went through it during the conflict. So that's the reason why I'm going to be speaking. It's a human rights issue, and anything that's a human rights issue I'll speak out against.
I think it's important to do peaceful protests and to do solidarity protests. I think there's such a misguided truths out there, and I know a lot of people are feeling really anxious about things. We have a high level of poverty where we can't get dentist appointments, childcare is so high, but direct it where it belongs, at the government.
Say it loud, say it clear!
get a lot of murals and gigs in West Belfast maybe, but that's kind of out of bounds for me because of my politics. But when it comes to the money, you know, I'd rather have my dignity and my rootedness and respect for my parents, my forebears, than sell myself for views which I don't agree with and my family don't agree with. Hello, my name is Brian Spencer. I'm a full-time artist, father and husband, and a goose handler. Art was my therapy, or it was just as natural as a young lad who wants to kick a football up, I wanted to paint.
What does protest mean to you?
I don't really go to protests. I like the saying, the pen is mightier than a sword, and I like to just write or paint or draw and sort of protest whatever issue it is through my writings, drawings or paintings. I do want to be a bit of a society painter. Quite often, instead of protesting from the left, I've maybe protested or done things which are more disruptive from the centre, conservative angle. My form of protest at the moment would just be to draw that which is maybe not fashionable, like the bonfire painting, or yes, the royal family. But I suppose my form of protest is painting when inspiration strikes, but I suppose it would be more so through my writing and my social media, which again has got me into trouble. So I'd done a painting of Heaney. Some of them sit in normal baths now. One of the Heanies in the Ormo baths was picked up on, and someone admired it, they liked it, did a bit of chit-chatting, and they wanted to buy it. But they checked out some of my views, and they felt that it wasn't for them. I lost $1,000. They reviewed, did their due diligence on my social media activity, and withdrew from the sale. And so it must be very discordant that you have a more conservative, unionist-leaning, albeit extremely Irish artist, who's also British, that they would be painting Heaney in a flattering or manner that is admiring of him and his work. So yeah, it must be very discordant for people who are, you know, live in the binary. But I just feel that I'm multifaceted. I'm Irish, I'm British, and I'm Irish, and I'm European, and I just love engaging in all the colour and pageantry of Ireland, whether it's the 12th, or whether it's a Fleadh, or whether it's Tradfest, or whether it's tomorrow I'm in some Orange Hall for a Highland dancing. And to a lot of people that's a bit bizarre. I just think that's deeply regrettable that that person didn't, they disliked my views more than they liked my painting, and it was regrettable.
For most of my life I've been a journalist, but I've always been interested in counterculture, be it music or arts or some other format, and counterculture is where a lot of the anger and the dissent comes from. So when I grew up, the big musical form was punk rock, and punk rock, the whole idea of punk was to resist, to say what you think, to try and create your own space in the world and try and identify things that you thought were wrong. So I'd grown up with that as an idea. As a journalist and a music journalist, I've always been interested in people who create a stink, you know, bands like The Clash or Public Enemy or the Manic Street Preachers, bands that say this is wrong, this is why we think it's wrong, and this is another road that we think you should go down.
For us anyway, it's the easiest and most accessible way, well, especially within our music, to actually shout about what matters to us. And I guess protest is a way to bring community together, to fight against the stuff that we're not happy about.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest way to do it, the loudest way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's about like a sense of agency as well. Like you can feel a little bit sort of powerless sometimes to do anything about the things that matter to you, and protest is one of the ways in which you can actually engage in the situation and feel like you have a sense of agency in what's happening.
And in the manner of our friends, you'll keep it to yourself. You're patient and that's a virtue, sure.
I think protest is really important to show visibility about issues like, trans rights, migrant rights, queer rights, everything like that, and supporting marginalised groups. And I think that, especially in times like these when, things are a lot more difficult and we've got people really feeling emboldened to speak out against marginalised people, it becomes really important to actually, one, speak out to show your visibility and to show that you are, of equal worth to everybody else, but also to stand up for these marginalised groups.
They're planting flowers again, tulips and snapdragons.
It's, I suppose, the one of the main means that we have of disrupting unfairness, I suppose. I think we unfortunately live in a society where our means of changing things are kind of systematically stripped from us, and protest and disruption are one of those remaining tools at our disposal for making ourselves heard and for, I guess, damaging any system that is in itself damaging. I suppose that's what protest means to me.
I want to go to the Asian supermarket with you, both literally and metaphorically.
To me, protest is the most sort of democratic way of expressing opposition or solidarity or support when we're existing in these systems of oppression and systems of injustice. That protest is the way to register dissatisfaction, and is like the first step in changing things.
Protest is a vital tool. It's one of the ways that we keep our society on the right track, but it's the way we move the needle. Non-violent protest is the most effective way of doing this, and it's huge. It's so important to me. And if we weren't there to do this, we'd be living in a very different society already.
It's given light to the things that people don't want to talk about. It's saying that we don't accept bigotry and hatred, we don't accept the social norms that people have had thrown on them, we don't accept labels that have been placed upon us. We believe in a free society. We believe that everybody has the right to exist. People would say it's utopianist, but it's not really. The way that we kind of see this is like, everybody should have the right to be happy and be free.
Unfortunately, again, I think the world we live in pushes us all so consistently towards individualism that, it's becoming harder and harder to mobilize collectively in any meaningful way. But when we do, I think it can be incredibly powerful. But I suppose it's just maintaining that level of compassion is so necessary in bringing people together and understanding not everybody is able to mobilize in the same way, but embracing the changes that you can make is very important.
The world keeps spinning when I close my eyes. No sound.
100% of the time it works, absolutely. The age-old saying of there is more of us than them. You know, if we're loud and we raise our voice and we push across in a peaceful way, then absolutely protest works every single time.
I think protest really works. You know, when I was growing up, apartheid in South Africa was an appalling thing. You know, basically white people ruling over black people and treating them like, you know, second-class citizens. And around the world, people were organising boycotts. So they were saying, we're not going to buy fruit from South Africa. We're not going to perform there as artists. We're not going to have anything to do with that regime. And they hurt the regime so much financially that that was one of the levers that caused South Africa to disassemble the apartheid system. So there are many positions around the world that have been changed by protest.
So I believe when a collective voice comes together to say there should be something done, I believe it goes a long way to create a change. Amensinor Favour Ohkophs, and I'm currently the Vice President for the Belfast campus. We attended a couple of protests like in my role, but the one I've been actively involved in is the anti-racism we had a couple of months ago, just to show inclusion and equality among us, especially coming from an international background, that everyone is welcome here. And no matter where you've come from or the color of your skin or your background, we love and accept you the way you are. So we engage in this protest just to make sure students are safe, just to make sure our voices are heard.
Belfast kind of came alive for marriage equality. Various people spoke about being on the right side of history or the wrong side of history. And marriage equality was, the protests were about love, really. They were about positivity. They were about, we want to get married. We want to have a civic or a legal process whereby we can declare our love. And it doesn't matter what gender we are, where we're from. So that won the day. And now you live in Northern Ireland and you can get married, whatever your persuasion. So that's a beautiful example of just how you keep the pressure up, and people reluctantly or otherwise are going to listen to you and are going to make concessions and make Northern Ireland, make other places more tolerant and beautiful.
In terms of Pride, protest matters because, first of all, that's where it started in the beginning. To remember the fact that Pride was a protest highlights that some people had more rights than others, and though we have made many steps forward, in recent times, I was about to say recent years, but recent months, we've seen a lot of stepping back of some of these rights.
Protest works, protest gets the headlines when it's done well. It reaches people who are perhaps oblivious to what that story is. So in the blackest days, you've got to hope that you can make a change. If you think you're powerless, then you are powerless. So you've got to have a grain of can do, a grain of I need to get up and try something today, push my shoulder to whatever wheel that's going to work, that's going to change things.